The indictment charges 12 Russian military officers by name for conspiring to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. 11 of the defendants are charged with conspiring to hack into computers, steal documents, and release those documents with the intent to interfere in the election. One of those defendants and a 12th Russian military officer are charged with conspiring to infiltrate computers of organizations involved in administering elections, including state boards of election, secretaries of state, and companies that supply software used to administer elections.
Hello, I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
And this is NewsRap live at 5. Well, it has been a huge day. We sort of had to clear out everything we were going to talk about. And
redid the whole show.
That's right. We redid the whole show in about 5 minutes.
Big stuff going on.
It's huge. It's huge. I wonder if people realize how huge it is yet.
I don't think people understand how big the indictment, just so, of course, you know what we're talking about, of these 12 Russians. Mm-hmm. I think people want to hear some big names. They want to hear Trump Jr., stuff like that. But I think this is big nonetheless.
Well, from a lawyer's perspective.
Okay.
And I'm not a criminal lawyer, but clearly what this does now is create what is known as a predicate.
And what is that?
What is a predicate? If you're going to have a claim of conspiracy, and by the way, collusion is not a crime. Collusion is just a word. When Trump says there's no collusion, it means nothing.
He should be saying there's no obstruction of justice.
Well, but there's another crime, and the crime is conspiracy. Were they involved? In order to have a crime of conspiracy, you have to have a predicate. That means you have to have an underlying crime that you're a conspirator with.
Right. And 3 or more.
And we have now established the underlying crime.
I think.
And the underlying crime is this conspiracy of 12 intelligence operatives of the Russian government who intentionally set out not only to disrupt the election, but set out to make sure that there was one winner, and that was Donald Trump. Now, did they succeed? We'll never know.
Well, we don't. And I don't want to cut you off. I think even stronger is I don't think we'll even never know the depths of what they did to influence people. Mm-hmm. We have some ideas. But as I've said before, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, we're at the point now, anybody saying that it's a coincidence that all these people who had contacts to the Russians just ended up in the same campaign. If you think somehow they just all fell out of the sky together, you're in denial. And I think that's where this takes us.
Well, how many coincidences can you have? And I'm going to pick out one.
Okay. The big one.
And it's the big one.
Okay.
It's the one that everyone's been talking about all day, but in case you've been working and you haven't been following this, we're going to lay it out for you.
This is the one.
Okay. Here is one of the items in the indictment.
Okay.
It says, on or about. You always say on or about, by the way. Even if you know the date, you always say on or about because, things could change later.
Okay.
But on or about July 27th, 2016. Now, that date is not picked out of the air.
Right. Remember that date.
Remember the date. July 27th, 2016. The conspirators attempted, after hours, to spearfish, in other words, hack, for the first time, email accounts at a domain hosted by a third-party provider and used by Clinton's personal office. What does that mean? It means that up until then, they were going after the institutions like the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and the Clinton campaign.
But on that date,
after hours, late on that date,
for some
strange reason, they decided to go after Hillary Clinton's personal email server, which we all know was not a government server. It was a private server. Why July 27th? Chevelle, why don't you show us what happened on July 27th?
I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
So, on his order, on that day, they went after her email.
Right. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that he knew that they were out there listening. Doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that they were listening. It means that they were paying attention to what Donald Trump wanted.
Well, you should say legally it does not mean that.
Legally. That's
but anybody with common sense.
Well, I always think legally, so that's...
And I always think common sense. And anybody with common sense, again, goes, so just out of the blue on that day, they decided to do this.
That's right. After hours, which means not in the morning before he said it.
Right. Right.
After he
not
said
as he was saying it.
Right.
But after he said it.
After he was...
They made that move.
That's right. In other words, they ran an errand for Donald Trump. Now, whether they did that to get into his good graces, whether they did that because, he asked them to do that, told them to do that, we just don't know. That's the piece that we don't know,
well,
but we do know.
Maybe we do.
Okay.
Let's moonwalk back a little bit.
All right.
When did Roger Stone say some big news was coming out? That was in relationship to the Trump.
Was later.
And that was in relationship to the Trump meeting.
Well, we can go to the Trump meeting as well because there's another date in here.
Exactly.
And the other date in here is June 8th, right?
Another date.
And on June 8th, the Soviet intelligence operatives created a fake domain name called DC Leaks.
Right.
On June 9th, what happened? There was a little meeting at Trump Tower.
With Trump Jr.?
Yes, with Trump Jr.
Jared
and Jared Kushner and a bunch of Russians, and Manafort.
So we have two dates that correspond with two events.
That's right. We do. Now, if you're a lawyer and you're making an indictment, you don't put that in the indictment.
Okay.
You just don't, because you don't have yet the factual basis to link those dates. All you have is a coincidence. How many coincidences
do
you believe in? Now, as an investigator, you definitely put those dates together, and then you try to find the evidence
and as a reporter,
to make the link.
As a reporter, when you have an occurrence that's more than one, you then have facts. You then have something you can build something around, and you can say multiple efforts were made because you have more than one.
That's true.
So, whereas a lawyer may have to go this way in an indictment, from a journalism point of view, you begin to go, I'm connecting dots. Something has happened here, which is ironic when he said, hey, the press will probably treat you very well. Well, we know now who they're looking at. They're not going, well, hey, the Russians did a great job. They're going, how did you hijack a U.S. election?
Right. Exactly. And I think that we're at a place where a couple of shoes have dropped now.
Okay.
The social media shoe dropped with that whole group of indictments earlier. Now we've had this shoe.
Right.
Now, if anyone has 3 feet, there could be a third shoe. And, or coming out of the closet, I don't know where it is, but there is a third shoe to drop. And that is what was not dealt with today.
Okay.
And Rob Rosenstein made it very, very, very clear what was not dealt with today. They said this indictment does not deal with any Americans involved in the operation.
And I think that's when most people became disappointed.
Well, you don't have to be disappointed because, as you know, Mueller is going step by step by step. And the fact that it wasn't in the indictment certainly doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just coming.
I think the layman wants to hear Kushner. They want to hear Ivanka. They want to hear Trump Jr. So they were looking for some big name. They were hoping for some big name to drop.
Yeah.
When they didn't get that, there may have been a letdown, or a recognizable name. There may have been a letdown.
Exactly. Want to get in on the conversation? There's our number, 626-794-8585. So come rap with us, okay? I think that this is a very, very major event today. I really do.
This is probably the beginning, because I don't think, Barry, that any of the Manafort stuff really tied anything yet that we know of. Let's put it that way.
No, it seemed to be a one-off. It seems to be his business
issues.
deals and all of that stuff.
But this potentially connects this back to the administration. We have the dates.
Right. We also have some references here. For example, there's a reference to some quotes that were made by, I think it was Guccifer, 2.0. And there were some quotes that were made that actually have already been seen because they're on Roger Stone's website.
Now, originally, everybody thought Guccifer 2.0 was this lone Romanian hacker.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be the Russians.
It's the Russians.
Okay.
So now the question is, what was Roger Stone doing talking with them? And it's Roger Stone then who makes the suggestion that something's coming.
Right.
Then Trump says something's coming.
Right. And I thought today, when I heard there were going to be indictments, I thought it was going to be Roger Stone, believe it or not.
And I think that's coming.
Because I think that's the,
I think that's on
the
its
first
way.
big shoe to drop.
I think that's on its way. I really do. I think Roger Stone is now. Roger Stone might have a defense, which is, I didn't know. I thought it was some Romanian dude. He might have that defense.
Well, he may use that defense. The issue I have with anybody's defense in this thing is, here's where we've been. Trump said, neither me nor anybody in my team spoke to the Russians. So as people began to find out what happened.
They all spoke to the Russians.
They all spoke to the Russians.
I know.
And nobody came forward to go,
I know.
hey, I accidentally did this, or I didn't know it was illegal.
I know.
They covered up the cover-up.
Yeah.
So even if you try to use that defense, I go back to, well, then why didn't you just come out and say, oh, hey, I made this mistake, and I didn't even realize this was illegal. That's what I would have said.
Exactly. So I think that the next step is going to be we're going to see some Americans indicted. Mm-hmm. I don't know who. I have a feeling that Roger Stone is one. But then it came out today, Roger Stone had a conversation with Rick Gates. Rick Gates has already agreed to cooperate. We're not done. We're definitely not done.
I think we're at the end of the beginning now. I mean, we don't know what Cohen knows.
Or maybe even of the middle. We might be getting toward the end. Yeah.
Well, I think that Mueller knows a lot more than we know that he knows, obviously.
Yeah.
But we still don't even know what Cohen's deal is.
Well, my feeling is that if there's a quid pro quo happening here,
that's where it is.
that Michael Cohen knows what's going on in the business dealings between Trump and Russia.
Well, and that could be key.
And that might be the piece that we're missing right now.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But in the meantime, we've got Alan. Hey, Alan, welcome to NewsRap.
Well, thank you. I'm enjoying the debate and the conversation.
I'm glad.
You know what I'm really curious, do you think this is another illusion that's being presented so that the attention can stay away from the real issues and build Trump up to be a guy who managed to get political attention and then divert it?
What do you mean real issues?
Well, I mean, how many times we've had issues come to life about Trump, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think there have been a lot of distraction, a lot of smoke and mirrors, but I do think this is real, and I'll tell you why. What is the one thing that enrages this guy every time? It's this investigation. Yeah. This is the thing that he has not been able to shake. This is the thing that he has not been able to lie and trick his way out of. And he could easily handle it to some degree by going, hey, they interfered in the election. Let's produce some sanctions because it's wrong. But if you look at the White House statement about this, it wasn't, we now have proof that they interfered in the election. It was, nobody in the White House was connected to it. No Americans were indicted. And this clears the president. So once again, they're not taking the issue seriously. And I think that's why it's an issue.
And it is a real issue. I mean, the fact that a foreign government, and one could characterize it as a hostile foreign government,
Completely.
has actually played a major role in interfering with our election, with our constitutional rights, in essence, is huge. And the fact that he is not taking it seriously and not doing anything about it,
Yeah.
that is a huge
I think
issue.
that's what's key, is that he's not doing anything about it.
Right. And we have to ask why. Thank you so much, Alan, for your call. Well, there was also an interesting piece that happened today, I think, and that was Rosenstein's emergence in a way.
His soliloquy.
And his soliloquy, but he's starting to look like he actually has a backbone.
Yeah, he showed some guts today, I thought.
He did. Now, you had some thoughts about that because you said when you watched the presser. First of all, what we ought to talk about is the timing of all of this.
Okay.
But
Well, can you imagine being Trump? You're about to have tea with the Queen.
with the Queen, yeah.
You've already been informed that this was coming down. And you have to wait for it to happen. And it happens at that grandiose moment when you're walking into the castle.
Yeah.
They break into, let's go to these indictments, and they kill his thunder, took his moment away, and he's meeting with Putin
That's right.
hours away from that meeting.
And now he was informed, right?
Which I don't like.
We have to kind of trace this timeline. Well, he had to be. So Rosenstein informs him that the indictment is coming. After he informs him, he still says, I think it was yesterday or
It's a
this
witch hunt.
morning, that it's a witch hunt.
Right.
He still says, well, I'll talk to Putin, and of course I'll raise it.
I'll ask him, but don't expect anything.
Don't expect anything, because he may say, and he'll probably say no. And, I mean, just kind of a really ridiculous
And we should be friends with him.
comment. And not, I mean, if he knows that this is coming, this should be like the Cuban Missile Crisis for him. I mean, he should be guarding this, and then when he meets with Putin, just go bam.
Yeah.
And I think the fact
Lay it in
that-
his lap.
The fact that they will just lay that indictment in his lap and ask for the 12 people to be extradited.
Yep.
The fact that the presser happens, and the fact that Rosenstein used the word informed,
Yeah.
not directed
Right.
by the president, he informed the president. Who has control here? That's a real question, I think. Tammy, welcome to NewsRap.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, hi, Tammy. I recognize
It's
that voice.
me, Tammy.
Okay. Lay it on us, Tammy.
It's not a serious issue, guys. You know it. I know it. Everybody is laughing at the Democrats right now. It's embarrassing now. You guys need to let it go.
Okay, which
that the
part of it,
Russians
Tammy,
somehow-
isn't a serious issue?
that the Russians made any kind of impact on the election. And
Is that what
because of
matters?
it, Donald Trump is not a legitimate president, is what
I
you
don't
guys
think I
are
ever said that.
ultimately getting at.
I said it, because he's not.
No, I didn't say that.
I did.
Okay, she
You
can yell at
guys,
you
it's
then,
so
because
embarrassing.
I haven't
It's
said he's not a
embarrassing.
legitimate president. Lousy president,
Okay.
but I haven't said he's
So,
not a legitimate.
do you think it's okay that they attempted or did in fact influence this election?
What's not okay is that everybody meddles in everybody else's elections. All countries meddle in everybody's
Really?
elections. You know it, and I know it.
So what did Canada do?
Yes.
What did
There
Canada
are
do?
all kinds of. You don't think Canada has spies in the U.S.? You don't think they try to hack our systems every day of the week?
You know what? They might. And if we catch them, is that an
Thank
issue?
you.
But if we catch them, is that an issue? What do we do when we
No.
catch a country doing it? Because I'm going to tell you this.
What
Here,
do you wanna do, Andre?
Wait. Here's where I
What do
agree
you
with
wanna
you.
do to 'em?
Here's where I agree with you. I do not think that Trump and Nixon were the only two presidents who committed crimes. The question is,
what crime has Trump committed?
how much time you got?
What crime?
How much time
has
you got?
he committed?
How
I
much-
got all the time in the world, Dre. Tell me what crime he's committed.
Where would we start? I see major conflicts of interest.
No, don't say conflict of interest. Say crime.
You're asking me what he's
said
done.
Trump committed
I
a
don't,
crime.
let me, I'm going to have to cut it
you
off
said
because I've
Trump
got another
committed
caller
crime.
coming, Tammy.
Please tell it what it is.
I know, I've got another caller coming, and we should invite you in for a full show.
Let's not. But we could point to his hair. That's a
But-
crime in itself.
Right.
But because I've got to talk to
so
Dan.
Dre
But
can't answer the question. It's not serious. So thanks, guys. It's a
Okay,
good show.
Tammy.
Keep it going.
thanks.
Remember when I
Love
said
to hear another point of view.
Remember when I said people in denial, if when they look at this indictment, they could not see that we have an issue?
Well, exactly, and we're going to talk about that in a moment
There it
too.
is.
But we're going to grab Dan for a minute. Dan, how you doing? We might have lost Dan.
I think we lost Dan.
I think we lost Dan. But
Hello?
you know, while Dan, you're there.
Yes.
Hey,
yes, I'm
Dan,
here.
how you doing? Welcome to NewsRap.
Thank you very much. So you guys want us to ask questions about the election.
Okay?
So 2018 is actually what concerns me, not what's happened in the past. Because we can't change the past. And quite honestly, I'm skeptical of anybody leading an investigation who was one of the people that lied about the weapons of mass destruction. Just saying.
Okay.
But going forward, what the world seems to be in unity on is Trump policies, and that's why they oppose Trump. You know, he is a racist, and all the things that people don't like about his speech and his talk.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's about policy. And if policy goes a certain way to favor a certain group of people, let's say the 1%, that's the issue right there. That's the core and should be the core of our focus going forward.
I think that's a great
in my
point.
view.
Yeah.
I think you have a great point, but I'm going to add this. Even if Donald Trump had the greatest policies in the world, I can't vote for a racist. Morality, how you... and I'm not saying you would. I'm not saying you would.
No, I think he's saying we should be focusing on policy.
Right.
I don't think he's agreeing with Trump's policy.
No, I understand, but I'm saying we should focus on both things. Because right now, our president is a disgrace to the world by his speech alone.
Well, it was amazing what he said today in England when he talked about how England is losing its culture
Yeah.
because of immigration. I mean, you cannot ask for a better dog whistle for white supremacists than that. And in a sense, Dan, that is a policy, unfortunately, and it is becoming a policy.
Racism is becoming a policy
That's
in the
why
White
we
House.
have kids in cages.
Right.
That's why no one's doing anything about voting rights anymore. It's all policy.
You know, that's also why, I mean, look at the hearings yesterday.
That's right.
You know, not just the White House, but the GOP in Congress. You're talking about a guy cheating on his
Exactly.
wife in hearings.
Exactly. I think we may have a Facebook question, too. Is that what I'm seeing up there? What do you think
Yes,
this kind
we
of
have a
trolling
Facebook
says
question.
about
That's
us?
what you have in front of you right there.
Yeah. What do you think this kind of trolling says about I can't read it.
What other countries? So, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and read it.
Okay.
All right.
Charles has a question. He says, prior to the 2016 elections, Russian trolls were using fake accounts to spread and make up stories of unarmed black women being shot and killed by police.
Yep.
What do you think this kind of trolling says about current affairs in the U.S.?
Right off the bat, people are going to be sensitive to that kind of action.
Right.
Those of us who are those of us of color in the U.S., we know what goes on, and we know that kind of stuff does happen. And they're now convincing people around the world. A, it calls attention to it, which isn't necessarily bad. But B, if you're making up false stories, it kills the credibility of the United States.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that we could do a whole show on the impact of social media.
And
Because
cybersecurity.
it's had a positive impact and it's had a very negative impact.
That's right.
And I don't think there would be a Donald Trump without it.
Mm-hmm. Or there wouldn't have been a Barack Obama in the White House without social media either.
But that's true too.
Let's be honest.
So that's why you have to kind of sort it out. And do you regulate it? And once you regulate it, do you change completely what it's supposed to be?
Then we start talking about the First Amendment.
That's right.
Which is a whole nother show and a whole nother issue.
Finally, I want to, I don't know if we have the time, but with what happened today and with what Rosenstein's warning seemed to be about what might be coming, let's look at the people that actually are going to have to take action on this. Okay. They had a little party yesterday.
A member of this committee just asserted that this witness, who is under oath and a former agent of the FBI, lied. There is no evidence that. I ask him to withdraw it.
I do not withdraw it. He is not a member of Congress. It's not a violation of the rule. And just as you have been expressing bias through your members about what a hero
there is not a
is
single person on this committee who has ever characterized a witness
Gentleman
as
from
lying.
Rhode Island,
Gentleman,
It's my time.
that's a disgrace.
Gentleman from Rhode Island will
Praise
suspend.
him. No, the disgrace
Mr.
is what this man has done.
The
to
gentleman
our
from
justice
Texas will
system.
suspend for a moment.
There is the disgrace. And it won't be recaptured anytime soon because of the damage you've done to the justice system. And I've talked to FBI agents around the country. You've embarrassed them. You've embarrassed yourself. And I can't help but wonder when I see you looking there with a little smirk, how many times did you look so innocent into your wife's eye and lie to her about Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, this is outrageous.
The credibility of a witness
Shame
is
on
always
you.
And those are the people that are going to have to make a decision to do something unless the Democrats win the House in 2018.
Well, and it really shows you that it's funny because they're talking about the bias in Congress.
Right. That's right.
But
we are at the end. It went fast. All right. But you know what? We're going to continue for a few minutes on Facebook.
Let's do it.
So stay with us on Facebook. I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
And this has been NewsRap live at 5.